My name is Giannis Sanders. I've been here at Western Ave for about 2.5 years now, since October 2 years ago. Well, I paint everything with a palette knife, and I started that along the way. I went to Mass College of Art and sort of stumbled into that technique one day, because typically you mix your paints with a palette knife, and then you take a brush, and then you sometimes assess your color against sky or whatever your object and your subject is, and then you start to paint on the canvas or board or whatever your material is. And one day I got kind of tired of the whole process of messing around with the brushes and having to clean them, and paint sort of getting muddied in the process, and I thought, well, the paint is already on the knife, let's see what happens if I apply it to the surface. And I liked it. As a matter of fact, I absolutely loved it. It was quick and simple and clean, and you could feel the buttery texture of the paint much better, and I could anyway, than I can with a brush, and that's how the technique started. And I started off painting small little 8-inch squares, typically outdoors, of scenery around Newburyport and just the general North Shore area here. And then things progressed, and I painted a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point that now very often I paint 4 by 4 foot squares instead of just little 8 by 8 studies. A lot of the work that you see here right now with these little struts, the supports, are all going to a show that I have in Middlebury, Vermont at the Edgewater Gallery in June, and it's a solo show, and they asked me specifically to paint Vermont scenery. So that's why you see a lot of farm references and barns and all that in the new work that's all drying on the floor right now. And in general, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and there's a lot of farmland and wide open space there. And even as a kid, I was already attracted to all these old buildings and structures and the weathered textures of things that I saw. And since moving to New England back after college, after Syracuse University, I started to roam around this area, found that there are lots of buildings at the ocean side, either on the Cape or up in Maine, that for me continue that same fascination and same theme. So there's very often a building in the paintings that I paint, because to me it's sort of a mystery of who was there, whether those paintings, whether those buildings now have been redone into some useful structure, or if they're just sitting idle at this ocean side someplace. And there's always an intrigue of the mystery of who were the people, what did they do, how did they work, how did they function, what were their day-to-day lives like. And then I just like to sort of speculate about that, and then also translate some of that speculation into interpreting the atmosphere of what I feel when I'm in that particular space. I don't know about the second part of your question, how the city can do more, but what it does for me, up until 2.5 years ago, I was working at home and setting up and breaking down at the end of the day, and I think the biggest single factor here is just the fact that I have my own space. I can come and go 24 hours a day. I can interact with other artists in the building if I choose to. It's not imperative. No one really bothers you and disturbs you. It's you know, my own little world here. So I can drift off, and I can just either leave work in progress, walk away, and come back fresh again the next day, or whatever. So basically it gives me flexibility on a pragmatic basis. It also gives me flexibility in terms of the whole creative process of dreaming and visualizing and sketching and drawing, and I have plenty of elbow room here. So I pretty much go from point A to point B. I live in West Peabody, come here, do my work, and I've frankly in 2.5 years have had very little time to roam around Lowell. I love the music series. I think that's wonderful. I know that there's a big emphasis on culture and art in general, and I think as a trend and as something that Lowell does, as you know, and encapsulated, I think it's a wonderful thing. So bravo, hats off, and more of it. And then that's, you know, specifics I haven't really thought about.
My name is Jackie Robichaux. I'm the designer of Jack Attack clothing here at Western Avenue Studios. And I have been open for actually exactly a year. This is my 1-year anniversary celebration. So when I was in high school, I couldn't really find clothes that I wanted to wear. So instead of, just wearing really basic t-shirts and stuff like that, I started to cut up all of my old clothes and sew them into new clothes. And about that same time, people started to ask me where I got them. And this little light bulb went off in my head that said, hey, maybe I can do this for a living. And from there, I went to Mass Art and got my BFA in fashion design. And I also studied a lot of textile design as well. So I design a lot of my own fabrics and t-shirts and things like that. And I design for all of the other girls and or women that can't find what they want in stores. So I do a lot of custom pieces for clients, and I've been really lucky to show in a lot of great fashion shows, including Boston Fashion Week and the Wearable Arts Extravaganza here. So that's kind of what motivates me, is making art that is moving throughout society on a day-to-day basis instead of a painting that just sits on a wall or a sculpture on a shelf. My art really kind of affects people in their day-to-day lives, and I just feel like that's a very special thing to be able to do. Yeah, I mean, Lowell and Western Ave, I grew up 10 minutes away from here. Lowell has always been a really huge part of my life, and I love the culture of the city, and I feel really fortunate to have grown up in the area with the largest artist community in the country. And when I made the decision to get a studio of my own, this was kind of the first place that I thought of. And I knew a few of the artists here, and everybody has always been so awesome and so friendly. And when I graduated from college, I sort of missed that environment of being surrounded by other artists all the time, and this brought that back for me. And it's just so much more of a special experience than being in a regular retail space, because you're surrounded by creative minds. So I think that my style is different from what you would find in a store, just because I feel that my brand sort of fills that gap between really edgy and like rocker style and really girly and feminine clothing. I've always kind of said that I design for the pretty rocker, so for example, Kelly Osbourne would be a really big style icon of mine, but I love combining really traditional, vintage, classic-looking feminine designs with really edgy elements like spikes and hardware and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people, you have to go to a bunch of different places to kind of mix that look together, where if you come here, it's kind of already done for you. So I like to dress a woman that's a little bit more confident. She doesn't want to look like everyone else, and she's not afraid to really kind of be a little bit in your face with her style. But I also sort of like to serve a really broad audience, so I have stuff that's really feminine with just like a little bit of edge, and then stuff that's really edgy with just a little bit of femininity, so that pretty much anyone can feel comfortable wearing my clothes. So this is one of my favorite pieces. I took a very, very long time hand beating it, so it's kind of one of my prouder achievements. I also had a friend who was in med school at the time who helped me make sure that this is anatomically correct and all of the bones actually laid on the model as they would inside the human body. I love that it is, from afar, a very sort of sleek and elegant silhouette, and you just get that bit of sparkle, and then people will walk in and look at it for a minute and say, oh, that's beautiful, and then all of a sudden they'll see the skeleton and their face lights up and they get really excited, and it's sort of this little hidden detail. And I just really enjoy seeing that evolution of people watching it sort of change before their eyes.
Hi, my name is Regina McGarity. I am a jeweler here at Western Avenue Studios. I make jewelry here in my studio. In the back part of my studio is where I work, and in the front part of my studio is where I display my work for open studio days like today. I work primarily in sterling silver and other metals with Swarovski crystals and natural gemstones. I started making jewelry in 2004. And I've been doing it ever since. I'm a self-taught jeweler, so I've never taken any classes or anything like that. The purple and black theme of my studio is really, it just sort of came about. I love purple, obviously, and I love things that sparkle and things that are glittery, so Most people around here know me as the sparkle girl or the glitter girl, which is kind of funny, but yeah, there really was no like thought behind it. It just sort of, I think I kind of got something one day and it was purple and I liked it, and then ever since then, like, I just have been adding more purple things to the studio. So it's not, there's no big like story behind it. I wish there was. I think a lot of my pieces are just really inspired by things that I would wear, and I try to make things for everyday people to wear that are easy to wear. I like things that sparkle, obviously, and which is why I'm drawn to the Swarovski crystals. But a lot of people that I know will make like art pieces and things like that, which are really beautiful, but I tend to try and make things that are more for the average person, that you can wear every day or that you can give as a gift to somebody without putting too much effort into trying to figure out if they'll really love it or what their style is. So kind of more easy to wear pieces is really what I try to strive for. I think having a studio at Western Ave has helped me enormously, because I used to really just make jewelry in my house in a spare bedroom. And coming here and having a studio has really kind of opened me up, like, to the creative community, and you get a lot of inspiration from other artists in the building, but also it's nice to have a community to be able to bounce ideas off of and people to talk to, instead of just kind of being a hermit in my spare bedroom all the time. I think that the arts community in Lowell is amazing, and it's very supportive of all the artists, and it's really helped me grow as far as how to market my work and how to get my work out to stores and to the public. I've become much more outgoing since I've had a studio here and been involved in the community. Yeah, so, and I guess, I don't know, what do I expect more from Lowell? I don't know. I guess I would like them to sort of focus more on a couple of events. It seems like they are always trying to have event after event after event, and it would be great if they put more effort behind certain bigger events, like when we used to have Lowell Open Studios, which was a big event for Lowell when all the galleries and all the studios would open. And so I'd like to see something like that happen again, and see the city put a lot of effort behind something like that.
Hi, I'm Margarita Correa, and my studio name is Romani Inspirations. That's the name of my jewelry making business. And here we are in Studio 423. Romani Inspirations came to me because I always have liked gypsies and gypsy culture ever since I was a little girl. And Romani means gypsy in the Romani language, or is also, Romani is the language that the Romani or the Roma people speak. So it resonated with me in that sense. And gypsy stand for freedom, for me at least, stand for freedom and adventure, and that's what I wanted the name to convey. It's the adventure of creating unique jewelry pieces. So I came to Western Avenue actually about a year ago And I moved here because I wanted to be part of a large community of artists and creators. It's an environment that really helps me be more creative by seeing other creative people around me and just, chatting or going into their studios. We kind of feed off each other, and I really like that. I also like the feedback that I get from people who come to open studios. It's just really nice, when people come in and they appreciate what you do, or even if somebody doesn't like what I do, the fact that it took time out of their day to come here, that is like a thank you for me. So I work mostly with metal. I use some beads and fabric and paper and other things, but mostly metal. And I use aluminum, silver, sterling and fine silver. I also use beer cans or soda cans in making my jewelry, as well as copper and other metals. It really, I don't have a limitation, it's just whatever I can get my hands on. I think what I do, what Romani Inspiration stand for, is a uniqueness of one-of-a-kind pieces. I never really make the same piece twice unless for some reason somebody really saw it on a friend and then they agreed that they wanted to have the same piece. But all of my pieces are unique. They're all handmade from scratch. All the components at this time, I'm working towards 100% completely handmade. Sometimes I still buy a finding here or there, but I'm working towards creating everything just from scratch. And it's a unique niche for me because what I do is something that I don't see around. And we have wonderful jewelers at Western Avenue, but we're all different, and I think that's what really makes it fun, is that we're all unique. So this is one of my latest pieces. It's a combination of 3 metals: aluminum, sterling silver, and fine silver. And basically the way this starts out is like this. This is a piece of aluminum wire, and then I shape it to the shape that I want. I do other techniques on it, stamping, patina, etc. And then the end result becomes this after my process is completed. Then it's connected with, these are sterling silver wire pieces that are shaped. I ball them up with a torch to get that little ball, and then connect the round components together with that. And I also made a clasp out of fine silver that just then goes together. I really like this because it's a little primitive. It reminds me of primitive human beings in a sense, because it's not perfect. It doesn't have a sheen to it. It's kind of organic. And that's how I like to create. I like to create pieces that are organic. And this is my newest line right now. I haven't had a name for it yet, but this is a bracelet. I also have the earrings that go with it and the necklace.
My name is E. Scott Phillips, and I am the creator at E. Scott Totally Wired. I do wire sculpture, and I make a lot of trees and animals and bookmarks and earrings and jewelry and pendants. And I came up with the name Totally Wired because I totally work with wire. Everything has some wire aspect to the piece, and been doing this now for about 3 years on a full-time basis. I first started working with wire about 4 years ago. I started doing these pieces when I was a kid. I'd actually make things out of pipe cleaner. And I'd make mobiles and trees and animals, and I said, well, pipe cleaner's never going to sell unless I want to get like $2 a piece for it. So I said, let's do it with the real wire and make some real pieces, and it picked up. Recent developments with me are I was chosen to show my work at Pottery Barn out of Rockingham Mall in New Hampshire with their Artist Reach Out program. I've also recently just had a commission piece for a 10-year anniversary that the woman wanted to get her husband a beautiful piece of art. She fell in love with my trees, and she picked one up on stone for him for their 10-year gift. I was also in the Khmer Post, Khmer USA Post, which is a local Cambodian newspaper, where the newspaper director, writer, was in, and she fell in love with my bonsai trees and wrote a nice article about me. And that's about it. I just keep creating pieces people add to their collections. Had a woman in here today who's now on her 5th piece, collecting for herself. So it's always a joy to see returning customers that love the work. Well, being at Western Ave Studios has helped me immensely because of the community here of artists. The friendliness, warm invitingness of all the individual artists here keeps me inspired to create more. I look at their inspiration in their pieces, and sometimes I might see a tree that they painted or a tree they photographed, and it helps me to sculpt another one. So that's very inspiring to walk around the halls here and to see their work and talk to them. And how can the City of Lowell help artists? I would say maybe focus more in the advertising, that it's a high artist community. Try and build up the arts and the culture and really getting that taken care of. As far as helping artists at Western Ave, we'd love a bridge that goes over Dutton Street so that we can walk here and get over the train tracks without having to drive our cars here from downtown. But that's about it. I think the city does support art, does love the artists. We can always use more funding to go towards the advertising. If you're going to buy a gift for someone, you should buy local art, handmade. I make it with blood, sweat, and tears in the summer, especially. I sweat here a lot. We have no AC, and I prick my fingers a lot with the wire. So buy local and help support your artists.